Hey, it's Chris and Brian here from Resolve Technology. And today, in today's Ticket Talk, Chris wants to talk about the issue of the Microsoft Authenticator. We've dealt with this in the past in a couple videos talking about the new changes to the Authenticator. Microsoft used to allow text MFA. They'd send you a text code and then you could log into your email and things like that through the text code. But they moved away from that and they want you to be on, they want to push you a code and then you put the code into your computer and then you log into the email. But occasionally we run some problems with that.
Yeah, so it's like it's history repeating itself. You remember everybody had email-based MFA where it emailed you a code to sign into some web portal. It's not considered as much as it used to as secure or safe authentication method. It's usually the phone, like having a text code come to your phone for a Microsoft account, that should be a backup. You have the Microsoft Authenticator, say your Duo Mobile, right? You have that hooked in there. You use that as your primary, but for whatever reason, your phone gets lost, stolen, breaks, and you're without a phone and you need to get in. There's another option. I don't remember the exact location. I can actually Google this. So I think it's sign in a different way. And then it will give you a drop down and then you choose your phone. Yeah, signing into the sign in another way link. Yeah. So if you click on that link, it should switch from your authenticator where it pops up to let you pick one of your multiple authentication methods. And the way you would get there is if we go to portaloffice.com.
You want to just present your screen, Chris, and then.
Oh, I don't have it presented. So if I go in my account here, so I'm signed into their main web portal, you just click on your portrait on the top right, and I go to view account. And then from here, security info. You can set your default method. You can do a few different things. I got to get my app open. This is just a demo environment, though. This isn't really set up. It's just using the Microsoft Authenticator for the one-time passcode.
Yeah, see that link right there underneath the code. It says sign in a different way. And that's the link that you would click on as an end user if you needed to use one of these different methods that Chris is showing you.
So you can see, you're going to have to get rid of my phone number. I didn't know it was in there. We'll blur that out. Anyways, you can see I got phone, password, Microsoft push multi-factor. And it says at the top here, Microsoft Authenticator is the default. So you can change one to default if you wanted to. But this number one should only be a backup. Now, one of the reasons, so the Microsoft Authenticator works like the majority, it's not like the OTP codes. It can work that way. It can work a few different ways. Generally, what you want is Microsoft, you sign in, you'll see on the screen here, we did a video on, you'll see this number pop up now. So before it was just hit approve, like approve, deny when you tried to sign in, and then it would spin a minute, sign you in. Now it shows a number, so 2 digits. And then on your phone, you get to put in the 2 numbers. The reason they did this is because of MFA fatigue attacks, like that notorious Uber hack, where they kept pushing a prompt to a device and someone just finally hit approve because they were sick of getting it. And it let somebody in with like administrator. I forget the full details there. But that's why this newer form of approve is because it's to prevent MFA fatigue-based attacks. I think that's the terminology they use.
Yeah, because they get lazy, and if they get annoyed enough, they just click the accept button or the yes, and boom, they get in. Okay.
Yep. Now, a lot of people, the main other point of this video is we've been seeing people that they saw a YouTube video. I don't want to use my personal phone. And say you're in an organization that you don't have UB keys, you don't have some of these alternative methods to sign in. That leaves you in a situation that maybe you buy a company cell phone without data or with data, and it's connected to Wi-Fi or a cheap tablet, and then install the app on there, the Authenticator app for the end user. But generally, if you're not in a business premium environment, if it's not an Intune mobile device, MDM joined device, we're not tracking that information. That's when this whole new Android and iOS both have this app add and app ID permission based. It's more granular now. You can ask an app not to track certain location, various different forms of data. So you can maybe allow, for example, if you have the DoorDash or the Uber app on your phone, ask app not to track or allow app to track only when using. If the app's up in the foreground and not in the background, it might be able to do location. So there's that functionality for if people are a little more security conscious. But if it's not it's not joined to Intune, it's not managed by the organization. It's just like installing Authy or Google Authenticator. We're not getting insights into your browsing data on your phone even if you were signed in with your work email. We could see the email no matter what.
Let me jump in right now. We'll close it up. We'll button this up. So basically, like, the problem is if the employee doesn't want to use their personal phone, we get it. We totally understand that. There are workarounds for it. You can use something like Chris mentioned, like a YubiKey, like a token, a hardware token, a hardware key that goes into the USB slot of your computer, and you can avoid this whole thing. However, what we find is most of the people are okay with just putting the simple app on their phone just so they can authenticate and get into their email. So if you're running into employees that want to do it, that's a management decision. That's not an IT decision. That's a management decision. Do you want to spend the money for the hardware tokens, or do you want to force your employees to use their personal phones? Really, that's not an IT decision at all. That's a management decision. So HR, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, let's wrap it up with that, Chris.
I just had one more thing. Like every environment's not the same. It depends your licensing. It depends on how you're configured the tenant and how what settings they have. This isn't like this is just a basic overview, high level overview of this as a whole. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, like Chris said, this Microsoft Authenticator app is just used to authenticate as a second factor. It's not used as a way of tracking people. Yes, there are logs every time you log into your email anyway. Yeah, Microsoft does that by default. So even if you didn't have MFA, you would have access to those logs. The company would have access, your IT people would have access to those logs. So it's not about tracking your activity or anything. It's about just being able to securely get into systems and locking down systems. All right, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, Chris.